again, thank you so much for being here. Today, we are going to be talking about the B word, right? Budget. It's that time of year, and I know you guys are loving this time of year because it's obviously pretty quiet and you have all this free time to get your numbers in order. Obviously, just joking around, but super excited to walk you through our tool today. Before I kind of do the intros and all that fun stuff, if you could, just from a housekeeping perspective, try and stay muted unless you are coming off to ask a question a little bit later on. We have a huge opportunity for feedback here, and so we're gonna mute you. Don't take it personal or anything like that, but just so we cut down on any extra noise that might happen, we're gonna keep everybody muted. We do have a chat function, so if you're someone who's like, let me go ahead and write this question down rather than come off mute, feel free to write all your questions down. We do have someone monitoring the chat, and once we get to the Q&A portion of everything, we'll be sure to bring those back up and get your questions answered. So for today, again, we're going to be going through our budget management tool. This session is really for those who overuse the budget, who underuse the budget, who maybe have just dabbled a little bit, or maybe somebody new. So everyone here is absolutely welcome. We do have the great and powerful Miss Amy Browning, who's going to be walking us through the budget management tool. We're going to be looking at the full process today. So fiscal year setup, working budgets, proposed budgets, adopted budgets, ongoing visibility. Obviously, I've sat in on a couple council meetings the past 2 days, and budget is top of mind right now. So what a timely way for us to kick things off and get you guys a bit of a refresher. So if there's anything else, Miss Amy, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to you.
Well, thank you so much, Joe. So, yeah, we're going to go through the whole budget process, but just to remind everybody where things live, I'm going to share my screen here and we will get to it. Okay, so budget lives in the general ledger. So, general ledger, and we have budget. And budget manager is where the budget lives. Just to give you perspective, when you come in here, it's going to by default go to the most recent budget year that you have open. Currently, it's the 2026 year for this database that I'm looking at, but we're gonna take it to 2027 here. But just to know that it's here, this is where it's at. When you come into it, you can see the status of budget. 26 has been adopted. If we scroll down to the bottom of the screen, there is an adopted budget here. So that means it has been adopted. It does show up in the financial statements. It does show up in FUNDVIEW console. So it is locked in. Doesn't mean that you can't make adjustments to it, but it is there. Okay. Now, for the budget, just for those of you that haven't done this yet, when we want to work on the next year's budget, our first process is to go ahead and open the new year. And that is perfectly fine in FUNDVIEW because we do not have a hard year-end close. So you can open up the new year early. Okay, you don't have to close years if you don't want to, and it is fine to have the extra year. So we're going to come here. We're still in general ledger. We'll come down to setup. And the very first thing under setup is fiscal years. And this will show you all of the fiscal years that are in FUNDVIEW. I'm just going to double check that yes, 2026 is the most current year open. We want 27 to do the budget for that. So I'm going to come over here on the right hand side of the screen and click on initialize fiscal year. What it does is it's going to come up and just basically this is a screen to go, is this okay? The fiscal year for this particular database is October to September. It says the new fiscal year is going to be 2027 and the description is 26-27 fiscal year. If everything looks good, then I'm just going to click save. If you need to change things, you can. Or I can just close it if I go, oops, I'm not ready. But I'm going to go ahead and save this. It's going to take it a moment because what it's going to do is it's going to read through all of the accounts and get them rolled over into 2027. Okay, so now up at the top we have our 2027 year. So that was step one. Step two is now we're going to create our budget. So we're going to come back up here to budget and budget manager. Now notice when we come in, it has defaulted to 27, so that is our most recent year that we have open. And now we can create our budget. We've got a couple different ways that we can do this, just depending on how you work. I'm going to come over here to the upper right-hand corner and click on Create Working Budget. And what that does is it brings up this dialog box, and it's just going to confirm with me that I want a 26-27 fiscal year budget. It's going to give me a name for the budget. It's just suggesting that I can change the name of the budget if I want. And it's going to ask me a couple questions here. Number one, do I want to create department groups? What those are is it's going to create a master budget, but what it'll do is create underneath that just little mini budgets by department. It just makes it easier to print reports that are just departmental budgets. I generally go ahead when I'm doing this for the first time, click it to start the departmental groups. But if you have departmental groups already from a previous budget and you're just copying over a budget, then you don't need to mark that again. This particular database, we didn't have any departmental groups, so I'm going to go ahead and mark that. It's going to automatically make it an active budget, which is what we want. And then it's going to ask me copy from. So at this point, I could just save it and it would open up a budget, but it would be completely empty.
May I help you?
So then what you can do is import a budget that you may have on Excel if you want to. But what most of you will probably do is copy last year's budget so you have something to start from. And that's what I'm going to do here is it'll give me a drop down. I just clicked on this and it'll give me all of my choices of years. And I want the 25-26 year because I'm going to copy from last year. And then another box comes up and it's going to ask me what budget, because when we were looking before, there was a budget still in working state, there was a proposed one, and then there was adopted one. And I do have a couple of different versions of the 25-26 budget. I'm going to go ahead and choose the adopted one. That way it gives me cleaner numbers to move forward with. And then all we have to do is click save. Now it's going to go through and read again because it's going to go and get the budget that I asked it to do and then bring it in. So here we have our working budget, and it is in the working budget area. This plus to the left, if I click on it, that opens it up, and here's all the little mini budgets that are here. I'm going to go ahead and close it back up again. And then to go into this budget to start working on it, I'm going to click on the blue cogwheel here under Edit. That'll take me into the budget. Now, since I'm into the budget, I do have a lot of things on my screen now. I don't know about you, but I kind of like something a little cleaner to look at. Up in the upper left-hand side of the screen, here where FUNDVIEW is, there's these three blue lines. If I click on them, it rolls that channel out of the way. If there's something that I decide I need there again, all I have to do is click on the blue dashes again and it opens it back up again. But by clicking this and moving that channel out of the way, it gives me a little more space to look at my grid. Okay. Now, so what this did is it copied over last year's budget into here. I can sort and filter the grid down at the bottom. You're all pretty familiar with all of our other screens in FUNDVIEW. But we have a lot of tools to be able to do that with. Now, the first thing I just want to point out is you might get interrupted a couple times when you do your budget. Just so you remember where you're at, you can always look up here in the left-hand side of the screen where it says working budget. It lets you know what year you're working on. So that's there for just a reminder because I frequently need them. And then underneath this, it's going to be very helpful to have working totals. What it's going to do is whatever is in the grid down at the bottom, it's going to give you totals. So if you're working towards a balanced budget, then here's all the total of the revenues that are showing up down there and the total of the expenses, and then it gives you the difference. So currently what we're looking at, there are more expenses than revenues. We have filtering up at the top like we do for many of our grids, so I can tell it that if I just want to see revenues, then it sorts the grid down at the bottom, and you'll notice the working totals, the expenses went away, and I'm just looking at revenues. So I can do account filters, or I can take the filters out and it'll go back to everything being there. I can choose categories. So a lot of you, we try to make sure that we work with you to set up categories. So if I just want to see all my insurance accounts, I can click on that and it will sort down at the bottom to all of my insurance accounts if I want to work on those. Take that out of there. More importantly, funds, because I don't know how you all work on it, but usually if I'm helping to put a budget in, I like to do it fund by fund. So I'll just choose what fund I want and it'll sort everything out and just give me that fund so I can work on that fund and just concentrate on that fund's revenues and expenses. So you can do funds, you can do departments. So if you just want a particular department in that fund, then you can click a department and also just work on the department if you like. You can do account codes, project codes if you happen to have those. I'm going to clear out my selections up here. Okay. You can also right now show 0 requested. So right now it's showing everything because it said show 0 requested yes. But if there are certain line items that you're not budgeting for this time, if you don't have anything in there, you can tell it that you don't want to see any requested things, or if there is 0 in there, it'll filter it out so you don't see it. Okay. So that makes it very handy to filter this for whatever fund or whatever you want to be working on at any particular time. Now, you can also, after you've had it filtered, come down here. If you're looking for a particular account, you can put in the number or a partial number and it will sort for that. You can do the same with descriptions and things like that. So you can sort the grid that way. Also, if you click on the description up at the top, you can actually do some of them ascending and descending as well. So you have those choices on the budget. That's just moving around. Now to the fun stuff. When you're working on a budget, a lot of times you may find that you come in knowing that there's a cost of living increase or there's a group of accounts that you need to increase or decrease at a certain percentage or an amount. Over here in the actions area in the upper right, you actually have a lot of tools that can be very handy and make things quicker. The top one, increase, decrease, this one's very nice because up at the top you can either put in a positive or a negative increase in percentage wise. So if you put your amount up there, then you can either filter your accounts if you choose. So if I maybe just to use my uh, personnel or payroll reference, I can click on personnel and it will sort the grid to everything that has been categorized as personnel. So it's sorted everything else out. And what I can do down here is I can either select certain accounts. And what it'll do is it'll take that 2% and it'll look at the requested amount, which is right now last year's amount. And then it will show me what the update is and actually give me the dollar amount that it's making on that change. And if I choose that, yes, that's what I want to do for those, then if I click save, what it'll do is it'll go and lock it into my working budget. Now, this is a working budget, so I can change every line as many times as I need to, but this is a handy way of changing a lot of accounts all at once. So right now I have 34 items selected. If I choose, I can just click up here at the top and choose all 34 of them, and it's going to show me as a total that I am increasing all of these numbers by almost $5,000. Now I can, as I mentioned, do a negative, so I can come up here to the top and I can change this to a negative percentage and still do the same thing. I can select what I want, and then down here I can see what the numbers look like. So I can actually test out different changes to see what I like, and also include or exclude accounts as I want. And if I click save, then it will go ahead and put it into the budget for me. So that's a nice way to quickly increase a lot of items. By default, our budget groups things by fund, by department, by categories, and also by account number. But what you can do up in the actions area is everybody's site's a little bit different. If you want to create your own budget group, maybe you've got a manager that maybe controls part of one department and part of another, and you want to create a new group just for that person, then you can create your own working budget group. You can give it a name, whatever you would like to. You can filter out accounts and then select whichever ones belong in that group, so you can create your own budget group if you choose. Um, you can inactivate a budget, because as I mentioned, a working budget, you can change as many times as you want, but you can also have several different versions of the budget, because if you start down a path and go, I'm not sure that I like the direction that this is going on, you can always create a new budget, and maybe call the other one version 1, and you can create a version 2. So you can have several versions of a working budget. It's just that when you come down to an adopted budget, there can only be one. Okay. So if you inactivate a budget, it'll just go and hide this budget. You can always reactivate it if you go, maybe that first one was the way to go, then it can be put back. Next thing you can do is add accounts from here. Now this is not new accounts, because if you have a brand new account you're going to be using in the next year, you'll have to go through setup and make sure you have your account code and then put it together with either the fund or department. So you'll have to create accounts there. And when you do that, those will automatically appear in the budget. What this add accounts is for is if you've had an account in the past and you've stopped using it and there hasn't been a balance in it, FundView kind of soft suspends those so they don't appear in the budget anymore. If you go, that was there, I do want to start using it again, then you click on add accounts and it'll show the line items that have been suspended, and you can just click on them and click save, and it will add those to the budget. Okay. You can, if you decide that you want more than one version of a budget, or if you don't like the name that the software suggested, you can always change name. So under actions, if you click change name, you can just put whatever you want on the budget, and that will change the name of the budget. That also facilitates you having more than one working budget, because you can have more than one working budget, but they can't have the same name. Now, the really exciting thing about our budget is you can customize your columns. So right now, what we've got is account number, description, 2025, 2026 current, and that's the adopted budget plus or minus any amendments or adjustments. Then there's the 26-27 working budget, which is what you're working on now. There's the requested column, and that's where you can put in your changes. And then when you save, it moves it over to the working area. And then this one has a percentage change column, periods and notes. But what you can do up here in the actions area is click on change columns. And what we've got here is it's showing the columns that are currently there. So the items that are marked are what are in the budget. What you can do, like for maybe to help out your council members if they're not familiar with account types, and if you want that to show, you can click on account types and it'll add a column. If you want another prior year budget, you can always come in here and choose um, like the 24-25 either adopted budget or current budget. So we can mark that. A lot of times what I suggest to people is current year to date. What that is that's what's actually going on right now so that you have actual numbers to compare with what you're budgeting. So I always recommend that that one be added. We can also add, and I will so we can talk about them, line items and attachments. So I can save this and it added those to my budget. I can, if I go, that's too cluttered, or if there's a tool I don't want to use, you can come back and change columns as many times as you want while you're working on the budget. So that lets you customize your budget. You can import budget because what we did here is we copied last year's budget, but I had mentioned that if you didn't want to copy a budget, you could always import a budget. Well, this is where you would do it. If the budget you want to copy is in Excel format, then you can select the file and import it, provided it has similar columns that budget recognizes. We can do attachments to the budget as a whole. This works just like the attachment feature all throughout FUNDVIEW, that you just click upload, you give it a description, and then you select the file. So it can be anything you saved on your computer, Word, Excel, PDF, pictures, whatever you would like to attach to the budget. We can do notes to the budget. So if there's anything that you want on the budget as a whole, you can add those notes. Now, down here in the budget area itself in the grid, I mentioned that the requested column, this is where you put in how much you would like for that particular line item. So you would type in what you want. And once you put in your amounts, and I'll just go ahead and put in some numbers. If I save, what it'll do is it'll take those amounts and it moved it over to the working area. Since this is a working budget, you can change it. So, you think about it, you talk to some people and go, I need to use some money elsewhere in the budget, so I need to move this one down and maybe this one as well. If I save this again, it changes the working budget again. So you can do that as many times as you want in the working budget. I tend to do it actually a page at a time, that I'll do a whole page of changes that I need and then click save and then go on to the next. You can also make those changes in percentages. So if you don't know the dollar amount that you want to change, what you can do is come over and put in either a positive or a negative. So you can put in the amount that you want And then what it's going to do is it'll show you in the requested, it changed this and added 10% to it. And then I can click save. My percentage goes back to 0, but my working number over here did change for what I had suggested. And like I said, you can put in a negative amount if you want. So if I wanted a negative 9%, it's going to tells me that it's now going to be 4,004. So if I save that, then it gets put in as my working amount. So you can use the percentages if you don't know the dollar amount that you want. You can also, in the budget, there are actually a couple sites that do this, that you can budget by period. So there are some things like ad valorem taxes that do not come in evenly throughout the year. If you want to be able to budget those things approximately when they're going to come in so that you can get an even more precise look at how things are happening in your budget. The period allows you to come in, and right now it's telling me that this line item is $4,004. What I can do, either dollar wise or percentage, I can indicate what periods during the year that I think those amounts are going to come in, and the software will tell me when I have it 100% distributed. And what that allows me to do is, um, once it gets locked in FUNDVIEW console, you'll be able to see when things are actually coming in versus what you predicted that they would come in on a periodic basis. So that's a pretty nice feature. Some people, like I said, do use that, maybe not for all of their line items, but for ad valorem and sales taxes and things like that. I've seen it used. You also have a line item here. What this comes in handy for is if I'm budgeting, say, this one, that my property taxes, I think I'm going to have a huge increase here, or not a huge one, but $90,000. What I can do is come over here to the line item, and if there's a particular reason that that's going to increase, whether it's a revenue or an expense, I can actually split it so I can explain why. Um, Maybe a better example would be like police vehicles. If you were going to budget maybe $150,000 for police vehicles, you could come in here and say, well, for that amount, we're going to get 4 different vehicles, and you can say what the vehicle is and how much for each vehicle, just to document that, I wasn't going crazy. That $150,000 was going to be split for 4 different things. So that comes in very handy. You can do notes to separate line items. So if you have reason for a particular line item, or calculations that you want to save for a particular line item, you can just come in and that note stays with that line item. And then finally, we can do attachments, because of course we can do an attachment to the budget as a whole, but we can click on the attachment here and once again just upload whatever you save on your computer, and it saves it to that line item. So it's associated with that. Okay. And then just to kind of wrap up, once you have the budget where you need it or where you think you need it, of course you can save it, and we come out to the front. We do have a budget report here that if I click on this budget icon, this piece of paper, what it does is it exports the budget to Excel, and I'll bring that over here. And it does retain your customized columns. And what it does is it exports the budget to Excel. You have a tab for each fund. And additionally, what it does is it will separate your revenues and give you a total for the revenues. If your revenues happen to be departmentalized, it will separate them by departments and give you departmental totals and then a final total. Your expenses, it will separate by departments and give you department totals. So that is what the budget export report looks like. If your gut budget's good and that's the way you want it, all you have to do is click on the approve button to approve the budget, and then you click on propose, and then it'll move the budget down into the proposed area. Now, this is where, okay, maybe you've had some more discussions with council or something happened and you go, I'm not ready to adopt the budget. I think some changes needed to be made. Then what you can do is you can always click on reject the budget. So it will mark this budget as rejected and throw the budget back up into the working phase so you can continue working on the budget and get it the way that you would like. Once you have it down, then you can reapprove the budget. It comes down here and notice it does keep track of the activity and puts dates on the activity. So you've got the original proposed budget that was rejected, and then we have the proposed budget. If the proposed budget is good and we are ready to adopt it, then we print the report just like we do in FUNDVIEW as normal. Oops, I didn't mean to reject it. Happy clicker. So you can propose and reject several times. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to adopt the budget. It's going to say, hey, is this name okay? Basically, it'll take your budget name and put adopted on it. I'm going to say yes. It's going to take it a moment. It's going to put it down here in adopted. And now that it's adopted, now it will appear on all of your financial statements for that year. And if I open my channel back up here, if I come back up to FUNDVIEW console and switch to 27, it will also now appear in my FUNDVIEW console as well. So it is there for you to be able to use. It is adopted, so you can't just go in and change it, but we do under budget, we have budget adjustments. So you can always add a batch here. I'm just going to call it test. You just come in and you tell it what post date that you're going to use for your adjustment. And actually, I'm going to put in a 26 date. Once I put in a date, then it does lock in the fiscal year there, so you know what fiscal year you're working with. You give it a description, and then you can come down here and find an account that you need to change. So it's going to show you what the current budget is for that year. You can put in either an increase or decrease, debit or credit. And if you're not really sure whether a debit or credit, how that will change the account that you're looking in, you can just type in the amount, and what it will do is on the adjusted amount, it will show you that adjusted amount. And if you go, oh, that's not what I wanted to do, I actually wanted to decrease it, you could put, oh, not that much. You can put your amount in there and then it shows you. And if you can put in one, you can put in a whole page, you just save them. Then you just register, approve, and post, and then they will be put into your budget. Just to keep in mind, though, that if you look at your financial statements or FUNDVIEW console, your adopted budget will still remain the same all the way across, where the adjustments will occur is in current budget. So if you have an adjustment to a line item, you'll see a difference between the adopted budget and the current. So you always know what the adopted budget is and then what the current budget is. Um, if you don't necessarily like the export for your report, we do over here under budget have a budget report. It's actually a working budget report. I know several of you do like this better. So you do have this report available. And then also you do have control who has access to your budget, because budget is one of the things in FUNDVIEW that we do have view only access for. So if you would like your council or your department heads to be able to look at the budget, then all you have to do is let us know who you want to have access, because we need to have their email address, and we'll give them access to FUNDVIEW, and we'll call it, because we do have a budget, a view only budget access. And then what you can do is you can come in here and then tell it who you want to have access to the budget. So if we come down and say that I want maybe Fund 10 and Department 29, oops, Fund 10 and 29 here, then I can sort out and I can click on the plus signs next to the authorization to see who is authorized to see that particular budget. And then I can click on add user and select the user that I want to have access. And now if that person has view only access, then this is the budget that they can see. Now, there is also the possibility that you may want some of these people to participate in the budgeting process. So you might want them to edit the budget. Well, what I can also do is you have control of that. So you can come in and you can give them both edit and view. So if I only wanted view, I would only put the person's name here. If I also wanted them to be able to put in their suggestions for the budget, I would put it there. So I believe that pretty much covers all
Miss Amy?
of my items. Yes.
Um, can we show where when we leave a note in the budget that it is printable on the budget report?
Sure, we can definitely do that. So we'll come to Budget Manager and we'll come over here to my working budget, and I'm going to, oh, I just adopted that one. So let me open another budget and I'll show you, because I don't know whether that one has any notes on it or not. So let me come back down here. I'm going to open another fiscal year. I'm very proactive with my budgets. So not only did I do 27, but I'm going to do 28 as well. So then we'll come over here to budget and budget manager. And I am going to, oops, why didn't that?
It
28.
created two for fiscal year 26-27.
Oh, that's nice. That it should not have done. Okay. Well, we'll try this. I want this one to be 28 to 29. Okay. Yeah, it's not liking that at all. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we'll create a working budget. We're gonna do, I'm gonna do the to do that one. Come in here and I want a note. We can add a note, and then I'm going to come over here to, let's save that. We'll come over here to budget report, and I want my budget report, and just to keep this small, and let's do revenues. And there is my note.
Thank you, Amy.
You are welcome. All right. Does anybody else have any questions? And by the way, budget comes around once a year. If you need any brush up or additional how these features can help you, please reach out to support. We're here for you. So we're happy to show you one-on-one the features of the budget. If you're wondering how to do something, just let us know. We're here for you.
We have one more question.
Okay.
Let's see. We got two. Carla Young is asking, do you know why we can't deactivate categories? And also, are there any updates on the active and inactive accounts? How do you run a report on budget amendments with dollars? The export doesn't include any financial info.
Those things have been requested and they are moving their way through the process. So I would say, Carla, those are coming your way. I can't tell you when, but they are in process.
Okay, and then we have one more question. Do people with view-only access need to have a FUNDVIEW account?
They will need to be set up in FUNDVIEW. And actually, I happen to have set up a user that only has, just in case you wanted to see what it looks like when they see. Okay, so when a user comes in, if they click on General Ledger, because that's the only thing they'll have, and they only will have budget here. So they will come in. And if you give them access to whatever working budget, in this case, this particular user, if they edit the budget and come in, they do not have access to the full budget. We just gave them access to Fund 10, Department 29. They had previously had access to Fund 40 and to Fund 63, but you saw when I was logged in and had full access, I had everything. This user cannot get at anything except for what they have access to. If I go to budget access, it'll tell me that I'm denied because I was not provided the ability to change anybody's access. Budget report, it lets me go in, but it will not allow me to run a budget report for something that I do not have access for. It'll just tell me it's empty and it won't allow me to do that. Budget adjustments, it doesn't provide access to that either. So the only thing I can get into is budget manager and the budget items that I've been allowed to have access to. But in case anybody was wondering what that looks like for somebody, then they can only see what you allow them to see. Any other questions? Or anything, yeah, anything you'd like me to show you?
So the only way to see the adjustment amounts is the export adopted and working and do the math. So we can actually see that somewhere else. The difference, that's from Carla. Can you show them where else we can see the adjusted amount?
If you want to see the budget adjust, let me log back out of this one. Oh, not that one. Okay, so when you make adjustments to the budget, if you come to Manage FUNDVIEW Console, that for whatever year that you made the adjustment to and whatever line, you will be able to see that there is a difference between the adopted and the current budget. So it shows it here. Oh, and by the way,
I think
while
you
we're
used
here,
Office. I think you used Office equipment when you did that. Let's see if we can find that one so they can see it.
that's the account number.
Let's see. Well, I remember saying you did it on one of them.
Yeah, but did I post it? So let's find out. Budget adjustments.
Oh,
I didn't, but if I post it, register. So my budget adjustment, it's office furniture. So 10/29/56/10. So I printed it, approve it, post it. So if we come to Manage FUNDVIEW Console, and I'm just going to go straight to 10/29/56/10. So here's the adopted budget, and then I reduced it by 100, so it's showing the current budget. So I can see it there. Since that has been adopted, I can also come down to reports, and I can come to either the financial statement or the revenue and expense report. Both of them show the financials. They showed all the revenues and all the expenses. It's just that formatted a little bit differently. So 2026, and we'll pull the general fund, and actually to speed things along, we'll do the fund or department 29, and we will print this. So in the financials, we have our account. We'll come down here. So 10/29, and it is the 10/29/56/10. So here's 56/10. And on this particular report, what we've got is actual and the budget. Now this is showing the current budget. So you can see the current budget there. If we come over to reports and we come to revenue and expense report, and we tell it Fund 10 and Department 29, and we run this one. And this one, we'll come down and find our expense account. So this one is also showing current budget. So on our printed reports, you're not going to see adopted, you're going to see what the current is.
okay. And we had one last question. To assign permissions, is there a mass assign, or do we need to assign each person department individually? So I did let them know in the chat, permissions do need to be done individually by user and fund and department.
Yeah, because you can come budget access. Here you do have the administrative ones, which give access to everything. So be thoughtful about what you do if you're going to do it that way. Now, this would be one way if you wanted somebody to have view-only access to your total budget. You could actually come in here and tell it that you wanted view all working budgets, this one right here, and not give them anything else. So that would kind of wholesale let somebody see all of the working budgets. But if you did want to limit them to specific departments, then you would be coming down here and selecting either view if you just wanted view or editability for each department. Now it does come in a little handier that up at the top, of course this is a grid, so you could search for, currently on this one we don't have named that. Let's try. So you could type in and at least you wouldn't have to skim through everything, but yes, if you wanted just view only access to, say, public safety, public works, you would have to come into each one and add users from the user list. Does that answer that question?
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else we can answer for you? This one does come in handy if we do have several sites that do this, that if you have some department heads that are very conscientious and they are always wanting to know where they are against their budget for a particular time period, this feature can be used for that. You just have to remember that the current period that's showing is what's actually going on right now. So if you have somebody in 26 wanting to know how they're doing against their budget, if you go ahead and open the next year, 27, have them give them view only access to the budget, and you make sure that you provide or select the columns for current activity, and then the 26, either probably current budget is what you'd want them to have, then they'd be able to see where they are against their budget anytime they chose. So they could be self-service to see where they are on their particular line items against the budget. So several of our sites use that, and we can help you set it up so that they can see that if you like.
Okay. Carla asked, can you add a couple line items on the budget and show how it looks in an Excel report? And then also we've got Diana asks, is there a way to report percentage of change on a working budget worksheet?
On the working report worksheet, I believe that you would have to have if it was the Excel, you'd have to calculate it on there. And on the budget report, let's see what that shows, but I believe that also does not show the, and I'm gonna just choose one and we'll run it. So as far as the hardwired budget, it will show a percentage change on it, but that is, keep in mind this is a working budget. So what it'll do is show you last year's current budget and this year's working budget. So this one will show a percentage change on it. If we're talking about the budget report export, it does not show that. So this report will, but that one won't. And this percentage change is between last year's current budget and this year's working budget. So that will show that. Now, Carla, as far as adding, let's see what, if I have to add an account or not. Let's come to this budget here. And we'll come in and let's see. Is there one that I can just, no. Okay, so I need to add an account. So let's see here. I'm going to go to setup and we're going to go to accounts and let's add an account. Let's see.
Amy,
Yes.
I was just talking about the little line item you were showing on the budget where you can divide it.
Oh,
where
where
you
you can
can-
divide it? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, where you can just
Okay.
divide it. I just
Mhm.
want to see what that looks like on a report. So like
Oh,
if you go
it
in and
will
put all your debt
it
out.
will not export to a report. You
Okay,
if you
that's
wanted
what
to
I
show
wanted.
that to somebody, you would be on screen and show them here. It will not export to a report. But how
Okay,
it
I just was
Okay, is
curious
that
to
what you
see if
want?
we could see it, if you separated it out, if it would reflect anywhere that people could see it. So
It
Well,
shows in
it's okay.
general ledger, but only under the account itself. We can view it from there.
the but hey,
But it doesn't
we
it
can
doesn't
always
show in
make
the
a
report.
request for it. So you would like to see those lines show up on a report. Okay.
Or just be able to, yeah, put it
Well, you
into
can
Excel. But you showed
you
Excel.
can go in to the, let me come back to the budget. Because if you're in here and you're showing somebody, say in council chambers or whatever, and let's split one of these. So I'm going to change my columns and I'm going to add the line item here just for showing a split, and we'll do, we're going to do this one and it's 4016. 16, and we'll split this one and we'll say item 1, and we're going to tell it that this is going to be 100,000, and then item 2, and we'll say this one is, and then we'll have item 3, and we'll do the rest, the 9,000, and I'm going to save that. So here on the line, it tells me that there are 3 line items there. So we can see it there, and it does split it out. But yes, if we close this and come back to, it does not currently export to Excel. So it doesn't, but we can always make a request.
Does it show in the budget report by chance?
That's where we're heading to next. So we want this one, and we want to see Fund 10, and let's tell it that we want a revenue because that's what it was, and we'll print. There's our note we put in before, but it doesn't do the lines.
The only other place that I usually find it is in the FUNDVIEW console.
And this one we want the 16. Well, we gotta get our right year here. 4016.
You can open the account. And then I believe at the top right where it says budget, at the top next to account. No, sorry, budget line items under action. Sorry. There we go.
So it shows that it's split out, just not how much was split with each.
Yes.
Well, I'd put that on a wish list if it was me asking.
Well, we can. It's you asking, so of course we can ask for that.
That's a pretty cool thing, though. I didn't know it did that, so I'm excited. Thank you.
Well, you are welcome. Any other questions that we might have? Or anything you want to see? All right. Well, like I said, if there's any questions that come up when you think about it, or things that you want to see, or if you need any help with the budget, please don't hesitate to reach out to support. We can definitely walk you through. If there's wishes that you would like to, if you know, hey, I really would like it if the budget would do this, or it'd be cool if the budget would do that. If you also let us know those things, we are very happy to put in requests. We don't promise that when it will happen, but we are happy to put in the requests. Well, thank you so much for spending the afternoon with us. We appreciate it. And I hope that you do get a chance for a lunch because, you know, the afternoon could be long without lunch.
It would be cool if the budget made council understand the numbers. We'll get there someday.
Well, we are putting in some requests that would make the budget a lot more interactive, let's say.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right,
Happy
thank you, Amy.
budgeting.
Bye.